Well, one of the people who has a fond memory of seeing the nuclear ship Savannah come up the Savannah River and make its first visit to its namesake city is our own Bill Edwards, who just happens to be the regular host of this show. Well, the normal? No, the regularly scheduled host of this show.
That's the guy, yes.
Bill, of course, is on vacation right now with many of our friends up in Alaska on the cruise, but took time to sit down with me and pre-tape this interview. Bill, tell me what you remember about August 22nd, 1962.
I couldn't, of course, given you the date, but I remember the big buzz that was coming about when they were talking about, building the ship originally. And they said it's going to be, because it's the first nuclear ship, since the first steam-powered ship was named Savannah, the first nuclear-powered ship was named Savannah. And we're talking the late 1950s. And we thought, this is the wave of the future. They're probably never going to build another, any more gasoline-powered or diesel-powered vessels. That this is what it's going to be. And when it was coming to town, even the news stations, as spotty as local news was then, when news departments, had like 2 or 3 people and you had 15-minute newscasts and stuff, they went out and shot the film of it coming in. And, of course, it was black and white footage in those days. But they said, look at this. The thing that you'll notice most, no smokestacks.
Yeah, no funnel.
Yeah, that this is it's very clean and all. And of course, we didn't give anything about, they didn't talk about environmental stuff in those days. We didn't care. We obviously did, but they talked about the tours that were going to get, and everybody was looking forward to going on. And you stood in line. I don't remember how long we stood in line, but the line seemed to move along pretty quickly. And you didn't have to go through metal detectors or Homeland Security or anything like that, so you just walked on board the ship.
It never occurred to anybody that having a nuclear reactor on a ship parked in the middle of a tourist attraction might be a terrorist target.
Yeah.
Didn't have terrorists.
Well, true. And, of course, River Street in those days was still just old warehouses.
Right.
So there were no businesses down there at the time.
How old were you back then?
Probably 11, 12. I was in the fifth. I believe
so
I was
you
in
were old enough to understand
the 5th
what
or 6th
seeing.
grade. Yeah, I was in the 5th or 6th grade.
A lot of your classmates there, too?
Yeah, we had a lot, and I think we took.
Deal.
I think we took our next door neighbor, my old buddy Robert, that lived next door, with us, and maybe one of the kids across the street. And we were walking around this thing, and notice how clean it was, how impressed I was, because I'd never been on a cargo ship before. I'd always been on. I'd been on. Dad lived up in Charleston. And he always took me. There was always visitation at the Navy Yard when we were mad at Russia. Remember when Russia was our enemy? The Charleston Navy Yard was the Polaris missile base. So they had submarine tour. Again, this is before another reason to hate terrorists.
Right.
People could just they just walked right on board. You got tours of ships all the time. You got tours of nuclear submarines. You didn't get to see the reactor. On this, you got to see the reactor.
Yeah, they actually built the reactor on the nuclear ship Savannah as a showpiece,
and
with brightly colored knobs, and you could. Do you remember the colors
amazing.
of the pipes? You could walk in and see there was like the purple pipes for this kind of exhaust, and the pink pipes, and the orange pipes, and of course it was very mod, I should say, 1960s colors.
It was, yeah, and the thing that they brought out was I don't know if it was built in Brunswick. But there was a company in Brunswick, Babcock and Wilcox was the name of the company that built the reactor. And I remember going through Brunswick and seeing a big Babcock and Wilcox sign on the side of a building. So I don't know if it was actually built in Brunswick or that was just one of their, because that was a big shipyard during the Second World War. A lot of stuff was done down there for the war effort, and that might have been just part of that. I don't know if the reactor was actually built in Brunswick.
Well, you're talking about a Wednesday. This was and I know this because our event on August 22nd is the same day of the week, 50 years to the day. So you must have been out of school. Did they let school out for this, or did your parents pull you
No, I don't
out?
think so. I remember that. I think we just went in the afternoon after school and got the tour. But I remember just looking at the nuclear reactor. And it was a shame that we didn't keep that when they decommissioned the ship. Somebody said that reactor, even though it was one of the earlier reactors, that if Savannah Electric had brought that thing in here and plugged it up, because they kept talking about how powerful this thing was, that it could practically light 3/4 of the city at that time.
I know they had talked about it with the Eisenhower Peace Park they planned for where the Savannah Electric building is now, and where the
Yeah.
where some developers are planning to put in a huge hotel on the east end of River Street.
And
That
it just-
initially was going to be the Savannah there.
Yeah, and it just grieved me that this thing went to Charleston, the big rivalry that we have with
Of course,
Charleston.
they didn't use it either.
Yeah, I know, but it was there for a while at Patriots Point. And then, I'm hoping that we'll be able to refurbish this. I would love to have it back here. So what are we doing? We're putting up a plaque?
We are putting up a historical marker
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, August 22nd, and this is a huge group of Savannah volunteers and historical organizations.
So that's tomorrow as this airs.
Correct. That will be tomorrow, August 22nd at 5 o'clock, and the Propeller Club is going to have a free public reception afterwards. What I want to do as a
all times for me
local
to be out of town.
historian, right.
But I'll be on a ship.
Well, the ship is in Baltimore. It's been completely refurbished.
Oh,
and,
really?
They're one of these days, very soon, they're going to be looking for a city that wants it as a museum with certain stipulations. So when I went before City Council, as this airs about 2.5 weeks ago, the council was saying, "Bring us the ship. Bring us the ship." We'll see.
Can
if
it come
there's-
down here on its own power?
No, it'd have to be towed.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons why it would make a safe museum.
Yeah. So the reactor's been cold for a year.
Reactor's
for
cold
decades.
for many, many
Oh,
years.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Bill, thank you for taking time to beam in. Tell Scotty we appreciate it. How's the cruise going?
It's great.
How's the weather?
We are
up
having
there?
the time of our lives. A little chilly.
Yeah.
So, but that's a refreshing change. But thank you for having me for this, because it was a wonderful memory. And if you had told me then, I mean, this looked like the wave of the future before the environmentalists got involved and the Jane Fonda crowd and all that terrified everybody, it scared everybody about nuclear power. That, here 50 years later, that would have still been the only cargo ship. They would have never built another one under nuclear power. I'd have stuck in a rubber room and a jacket. We'd have thought we'd have been, the whole country would have been on nuclear power.
Well, I mean,
by now.
what 3 Mile Island happened, and now we got
again, that
Fukushima,
was
so there's always
another hoax.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it was. I mean, the reactor thing itself was not a hoax, but it was.
Right.
But the fact that it damaged anything except the reactor itself and caused all these problems, that was just a fabricated story from the media.
Well, and we learned that we're not in any less danger from nuclear terror.
Yeah, that's right.
Because we have less reactors too.
Absolutely.
Now we have coal.
Yeah, boy.
All right, Bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
Have fun.
Always a
We'll see
pleasure.
you when you get back, and look
Thanks a
forward
lot.
to hearing about your trip.
I appreciate you sitting in for me.